the US is putting radiation into flies and dumping them from airplanes in Texas and Mexico as part of an effort to combat a flesh-eating maggot infestation that threatens livestock. This initiative involves breeding and sterilizing male flies with radiation, then releasing them to mate with wild females, preventing their eggs from hatching. This method, known as the sterile insect technique, has been successfully used in the past to eradicate New World screwworm. Why is it called New World screwworm? It's a fly that is a parasite that lays eggs on open wounds of animals, and the larvae feed on the animal's flesh, causing serious damage and potentially death. Recent directions of New World screwworm in Mexico, close to the border, or the U.S. border, have raised concerns about a potential outbreak in the U.S., prompting this aggressive action. The U.S. is implementing a large-scale sterile insect technique which involves breeding, establishing new fly factories to produce billions of male flies, sterilization using radiation to sterilize the flies, airdropping the sterile flies over affected areas in Texas and Mexico, mating disruption. The sterile males will mate with wild females, preventing them from producing viable offspring, thus reducing overall population. It affects warm-blooded mammals. We're warm-blooded too. This is very interesting. I do have a vision of flies, and what's also interesting is the same night that I saw these huge flies covering a bush was the same night I saw something else that's happening right now. February 26th, 2025 at 11:47. The time of that is 7 and then 411, which is 676. And the reason I say that is because it's interesting, because I saw a bunch of big flies flying around a bush. Then I saw a man telling people what to do in a tent at a NASCAR race, I believe. Strange, because I had a NASCAR driver vision last night. So last night would have been February 20th. But the man was pointing and laughing. And I took the vision as a spiritual meaning. But I found this. July 5th and 6th. Chicago residents and visitors make plans to celebrate the 4th of July. The city of Chicago and NASCAR officials finalize preparations for the 2025 NASCAR Chicago Street Race, which takes place on Saturday, July 5th and Sunday, July 6th in Grant Park. So it's just interesting because 11:47, that's 742 or 76, and that was the last day of the NASCAR race this weekend. And it happens to be the same night that I saw a bunch of flies flying around a bush. Billions of flies to be dumped out of planes in an effort to fight flesh-eating maggots. U.S. plans to drop millions of flies over Texas to fight flesh-eating maggots. Plans to fight flesh-eating maggot by breeding billions of flies. Another screwworm incursion inevitable, experts warn. That's 3 weeks ago. And just so you know, it can affect humans. New World screwworm flies lay their eggs on the edges of open wounds and other body openings in live, warm-blooded animals. These flies are attracted to the smell of the wound, which can be As small as a tick bite, they may also lay eggs around the eyes, nose, mouth, navel of newborns, and genitals. In the umbilical cord area. Screwworms are also attracted to mucous membranes such as nostrils, mouth, and eyes. Yes, New World screwworms can be attracted to and infest human wounds. Then I looked up if an insect that's covered or filled with radiation can affect humans. Radiation to be transferred to humans through the bug, or it says yes. However, the amount of radiation a bug might carry is generally low. But what about when they're breeding them and sterilizing them through it? Unless the bug is heavily contaminated and ingested or handled extensively. If a bug is contaminated with radioactive material, touching it could transfer some of that material to your skin. Ingestion or inhalation. Symptoms of acute radiation syndrome. That's interesting. Doesn't that spell out the abbreviation SARS? Does that sound familiar to anyone? Severe nausea and vomiting, potentially with blood. Isn't that rehearsal that I shared the other day regarding bleeding, bloody stools and rectal bleeding, hair loss, fever, confusion, disorientation, burns, blistering and sloughing, bleeding from nose, mouth, or gums, severe fatigue and weakness, dehydration, fainting, infection due to weakened immune system, convulsions, and coma in severe cases. Increased risk of C, potential for scarring and fibrosis, scar tissue formation in radiated areas, nerve damage leading to pain, cardio V problems, and chronic pain syndromes. A lot of these things I myself experienced from the last rehearsal that turned to a real physical thing in 2020, the year. And just a little bit, screenshot this. This is about the rehearsal, fictional weaponized virus and what it can cause. And more on that. High ranging. This is the fake fictional rehearsal notes as if it happened, what they said. Read the blue that I highlighted. This is for research purposes only, and more. And then they said this in bold. Also interesting, all of these projects, including the new OWS down below. But what's really interesting to me is in that blue rectangle, or turquoise, whatever you want to call it, it says Apollo program. Apollo, where do I know that from? Oh, that's right. Revelation 9:1:1. What did I say? Tomorrow is right to left. 2025, 9, 7, 4, 11. The Hebrew way, right to left. Apollyon is described as the angel of the bottomless pit or abyss, and the king of the demonic locusts released during the end times. Apollyon or Abaddon means destroyer. 1976 picture of the Twin Towers, and 2021 new memorial site. Revelation 9:11. This is the memorial site. I wonder what those holes in the ground lead